Hi there. We are so glad you joined us today for this message. We hope you enjoy it. Kick back, learn about Jesus, and be blessed. Talk to you soon.
Anyways, God bless you, new folks. It's good to see you. What we do normally when we have new people is we have them come up here and talk about their lives. And no, it's good to feel nervous for a second, right? So it is what it is. How many of you have heard that said? Or said that yourself? Yeah. And I'm always kind of a week ahead with this. And this study, a gentleman come up to me after church last Sunday and said, "You need to talk about it is what it is." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "It is what it is." Yeah, what is it? And he said, "No, it is what it is." It took me a minute, but I got it. And then I thumbed through my Bible and said, "Look where we're going next week." As we go through chapter 7 of Matthew, we come to, it is what it is. So, not really, we come to verse 12 in chapter 7, which is sometimes referred to as the golden rule. And how many of you know the golden rule? And you were told it like I learned it when I was in the 3rd grade. And it was simple, just do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so in that way, I kind of learned it as a kid. And I learned it a hard way as a kid. One time I went to a birthday party, and they had little presents and stuff, but there was this one little stupid-looking monster finger puppet that this little boy got for his birthday. And it stuck to my finger. And I was riding home in the car and going, "No, no, 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 no," to my brother, picking on him. And my mom turned around, said, "Hey, what is that?" And I'm like, "What is what?" And she turned around and took me back to the house and made me go inside and apologize and give it back to the boy. And his mom was not ready for that. And to her, it was just another thing that I didn't have to clean up or step on. But it was a big deal to my mom. And therefore, for me, I learned that I was reminded, harshly with a paddle, that you do unto others as you would have done unto you. Now, it wasn't same. Somebody didn't steal something from me, but I got my pride and the wind taken out of me that day. I guarantee you that. So we kind of learn that as we're young, but we don't always use it. In fact, probably most of us never use it, because we are in a society where we tend to take care of ourselves. And we tend to say things like, "It is what it is." Well, my truck died. And your neighbor says, "Oh, it is what it is. Get another one." It's kind of the way of just brushing stuff off. Forget about it. Don't worry about it. Move on to the next thing. And Jesus is telling us different there. And I'm going to go ahead and read this verse 12. I'm going to go through 14, 12 through 14 of Matthew chapter 7. So in everything, I'll read this one. "Therefore, in all things, whatever you do, that you should do to men, do ye even to them." What translation is that? Yeah. What'd she say? No, I was just reading it in NIV here, and I turned around and it was like, wow, I have to speak a different language this way. Do ye even to them, for this is the law and the prophets. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, and this is the sum of the law and the prophets. Now, when Jesus says that, that's very simple. We have to understand that before this, he is talking about how to treat dogs and pigs. He's talking about we don't throw our pearls before the swine, and we don't feed holy things to dogs. And he's teaching us all these things, and he's teaching us to pray for those things. That it says that in verse 6, it says, do not give dogs what is sacred, or throw to pigs pearls to pigs, for they will trample them under their feet, and then they will turn on you and tear you to pieces. So those would be things that would be an enemy in our life, giving them precious things. So he's telling us how to treat them. Now he's telling us how to treat each other. So we should be able to do this, right? The world should allow us to do this very thing. But then you have to think about that. If we were to treat everyone as we would have done to ourselves, we wouldn't have to have laws. You know, there'd be a few people out there that just want to ruin stuff because they are ruined. But generally, most of us don't want to be talked badly about, or treated badly, or dealt with in a business deal badly. My wife is one that she's very good at letting someone, seeing potential in people and giving them all the benefit of the doubt, and having you go ahead and give me what you take that away from yourself. And she's that type of person. I never was. I was always a little suspicious of people. The Lord's changed my heart greatly, but I was always a little bit guarded with things and how people treated and went on. But one of the things that Jesus does is in the Old Testament, the Hillel is one of the rabbis, Jewish rabbis, and he would say this in a negative way. He would say, you should not do to others as you would not have them do to you. And see, Jesus changes this here. He says that you should do to others. So he took it from a negative, right? Understanding that? To a positive. So you should do to others. So this changes everything about the way we look at it. And this sums up the law and the prophets, meaning that this encompasses everything else that was taught. If you do this thing, if you can have this type of attitude, if you can be this type of person to others. So we're going to look at Leviticus 19, verse 18. And last week I know there was some of you that read out, and there was people that said they enjoyed that. If somebody decides they want to read out, I think we're going to try to figure out how to do that. So it also can be recorded in the camera and whatnot. But for right now, if somebody would like to read something, go ahead and hold your hand up, and he'll come with the... So Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18 says, do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against one another among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Way back in the Old Testament, it was said this way, to love your neighbor as yourself. And it got retranslated, as we learned last week, by the Pharisees into love your neighbor and hate your enemy, which makes it easier to keep that. Then your enemy can be anyone that in your mind somebody who's against you, says something against you, or somebody you merely just don't care for. Could be your enemy. Jesus changes this, and it's actually written that to love your neighbor as yourself, as you love yourself. We talked about on Wednesday loving your enemies, and it's weird how this is filled. All of the teachings that we are doing and seeing right now, from somewhat what the women are teaching about on Thursday night to what the men are talking about. We're talking about anger and resentment. And it's just incredible how God works. It's not somebody sitting down and going, this is what all these classes are going to teach, because they're done by individual people that don't talk. What Keenan's talking about on Sunday morning in the Bible study. It's just, it's awesome to see how God brings these things together. Now, we are in a place in this church where we are in a healing process. We're not only in a healing process from things that have happened in the past, in the year before, this past year, the beginning of this year, but we're in a healing process in our lives, right? We are on a journey to have the mind of Christ. That is a healing process. Because a lot of times you learn things about yourself that you have to put down, that you have to put aside, and that you have to leave behind. Although they may have been a great thing and built part of your character, and you based yourself on that thing, now you're not less because you left that behind, because He comes and fills you with His Spirit, and He fills you with more and better than. We learn as we go through this that Jesus has a powerful message that is very simple, but sometimes it's so hard for us to see. In Romans chapter 13, verse 8 through 10, we want to read that one. It says, let no debt remain outstanding. Now, how many of you are in debt? I can't say I am. It says, let no debt remain outstanding. You know, that's something for another time, but God ultimately wants us to be debt-free. Because when you're in debt, you're a slave to this other thing. You may have to go to work because you have to pay a bill, which is part of life. But you wouldn't be able to go if He said, don't go to work today and do this. God's not going to tell you not to go to work and do something else. But He has things for us to do when we are free. So, except for the continuing debt to love one another. Continuing debt all the time. How many times did we learn Wednesday night, 2 Wednesday nights ago, how many times we're supposed to forgive? 7 times 70. That's tough. It's tough for a lot of us to get that. We have somebody that's in your face all the time and needs forgiveness all the time. We label them. And recently I was in the hospital and I had some stuff done to me, and they put these arm bracelets on. And I asked the nurse, I said, where do you order those at? She's like, I don't know. We just say we need more. And I was like, I'd like to get some of those. She goes, well, why would you need them to wear around? Because you have an allergy and you have this condition and that? I said, no. I want them printed custom and put them on people when they come into church. She goes, what? I said, yeah, we'll just brand them. One of them will say EGR, extra grace required. That's funny, isn't it? Sometimes I need an EGR band because of whatever happened in the day, whatever's going on in the week. Man, you get a little bit sensitive. Even guys, we get a little sensitive. And but I always said that I want to get shirts made for each one of my kids that say, "Don't talk about Jesus to me." So every time I look at him, I remember, oh yeah, okay, that's you. But sometimes labeling things is funny. But continually getting into love to one another. So T-shirts that say "Love Me." You think you can sell a lot of them? Or people look at that and go, I don't know if I can wear that. Because that means somebody's going to talk to me, or somebody's going to hug me, or somebody's going to want to know what's wrong with me. It doesn't necessarily mean to, love me, stay away from me. It means get to know me. That's how you love me. So that kind of shirt, you might get some people to buy it, but I bet it would either fold in a drawer or hang in a closet more than it would get worn, And so it says, for whosoever loves one has fulfilled the law. Loves others has fulfilled the law. And the commandments. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not murder. You shall not steal. You shall not covet. And whatever other commandments may there be are summed up in this one commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. So love is everything we need to make everything work right? That's the gasoline for our engine. That's the grease for our wheels, right? So I think what Jesus is telling us here is we don't even know how to love. We don't even understand it. How many of you have somebody in your life that is out there looking for love, and coining a phrase to the song, in all the wrong places, in all the wrong faces? We talked on Wednesday, if you can't love yourself, you have a hard time loving other people. And sometimes, I'm not that loving in and of all myself. But I think that what he's telling us, I believe what he is telling us is that we don't even understand how big this love is. If God is love, I know we don't even know how big it is, or where it extends, or how much it is for us to give. You're not going to run out of it. If God's given it to you, you are not going to run out of it. Amen? So it should be really simple. Really simple, right? It's really hard. Because our love is for, just as God's love is for sinners. It's for the ones that don't agree with us. It's for the ones that don't come to this church. It's for the ones who say bad things about you because you come to this church. And that's where I think that we just don't even understand how big and great love is, or what we can do with it. What a weapon, right? This is a weapon. But if we can ever get that in here and down here into our heart, we can be really powerful. So now the next thing that he talks about is the gate. And so I'm going to read 13 and 14 here, verse 13 and 14 of Matthew 7. It says, enter through the narrow gate, for the wide is the gate that is broad, and its road leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. So I've read this for years, and I've really never had a picture of what that meant, other than we all know what a big gate is. We all know what a narrow gate is. We all know what a wide road is. We all drive down this narrow road here and all these narrow roads around here. So why is Jesus talking about this? Well, there's two ways. He definitely tells us there's two ways There's two ways to get where you're going, right? One way leads to one way, one place. The other one leads to another place. So what I did, and this is a study that we'll get into on Wednesday night when we're done with what we're doing now, or maybe it'll come a little later, is a study of the gates of Jerusalem. I haven't done it in a long time, but it's really, really cool, and it's historic, but it's also really cool how God puts things together and has people put things together to honor Him. So there's two ways. There is a narrow way and a wide way. And the reason why I believe he states this is because most of us who have a big truck are not going to go in that little narrow way. We're just going to go in the wide way. We don't have to worry about if we're driving well or not. Same type of idea. We don't have to watch ourselves so much as we go through the wide one because you're just through real fast. We want everything real fast nowadays. But the narrow one, you got to take a little bit of time. You're going to slow down. You're going to watch in your mirrors. You're going to watch everything as you go through because you don't want to mess up and hit the gate. Not only the people behind you are going to make fun of you on the other side, right? Hey, you got to go to the body shop. You got to get something fixed. You got to do this or that. So I wanted to talk about the sheep's gate. Now, in Scripture, when Jesus entered Jerusalem, he went through the sheep's gate. Okay? The sheep's gate was called that for a reason, and that was one of the first gates that was built when the wall was being built, and it was built by the high priest and his staff. They built the sheep's gate. Now, what it was they would come in through that gate, and there would be pens, and those pens were where they would sell the sacrifice sheep for the temple. And then there was the pool of Bethesda there. And Jesus did miracles there, but the sheep's gate was always where he went in and out of. Isn't that cool? He was a lamb that was slain. He was our shepherd. He associated most. You know, when he went in, there was a purpose where he was going and what he was doing. And so he went in through that gate. So then I started to look at the different gates and look over some of the notes that I have from years ago when I was teaching Bible class in the morning, Sunday school. And the smallest gate, okay? So the largest gate is not the sheep's gate. And the smallest gate is not the sheep's gate. The most narrow and the most smallest gate is the dung gate. Now that's the one at the very end where all the dung goes out, all the garbage, and it goes out to Gehenna, the trash dump that's always on fire, continuously on fire, where we get Gehenna and hell. So that's the smallest gate. Okay? Now, I want to look at Psalms 87, verse 1 and 2. And he has found a city on the holy hill. The Lord loves the gates of Zion more than all the other dwellings of Jacob. So there's a reason why gates were put on the wall. Access. Keep out. We talked last week about the door. Okay? Same type of deal. Access. Different things. There's a fish gate. There's a golden gate. There's so many different gates for different things. Where the water gate, where things came in and out of the city. So he loves the gates, and they were placed in. He placed them where they needed to go, and there's a reason for each and every one of them, and it's a wonderful study. But in this passage, what he's talking about is numbering the people. From now on, when they come through this gate, they'll be numbered, and then we can say, he comes from this place, or she comes from this place, right? So I want to think about gates. Now, how many of you have seen sheep's pens? Yeah, that's usually, here, Texas, it'd be a fence, a fenced-in area. In Israel, it's a rock walls. They don't have to be high, so high. It's rock walls with an open gate, right? And that gate's narrow. And the gate's narrow for a reason, because when the sheep are coming through, the shepherd, he counts every one of them as they come through. You get too many coming at one time, and he can't count them. So his deal is he is noticing everyone's here. Okay? When they get into the place where he has set them, now he is the gate. Because it's just an opening. So the shepherd will lay down in that gateway, and now he's the gate. They're not going to come back across him. They're not going to get out. So in protecting them, nothing's going to get into them, and nothing's going to get out of there until he's ready and he calls them and they go. So think about that. And it's very interesting what Jesus tells us in John chapter 10. When he's talking about these gates. Verily I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep's pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. Now, just that right there, he's saying if you try to come in any other way other than the gate, you have a bad intention. Right? So the shepherd is watching that very thing. That's why the gate is there. Not, I only have to watch this little thing, I can rest also. Okay? The gatekeeper opens the gate for him. And the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. So there's a picture also too where Jesus continues, says, I am the good shepherd, my sheep know my name, they know my call. But you have to think about that too. If there's other sheep around, that's how they know the difference between the two, is the sound of their voice. That's unique to sheep, not cattle. Cattle, anybody can come in and start cattle mooing, right? And you think about how we herd cattle. Those pens are big and the gates are wide. It's usually double gates. They all come through there, and then we have to shut that gate. And you're not going to lay down in front of a gate and hold cattle back in. No, they're bigger. I won't say they're dumber, because if you put them in a pasture, they'll go get water, and they'll come to food, and they'll move around. Sheep will stay in one place. They'll hang out until you move them. So he says here, when he has brought out all of his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. Now, you have to understand, too, that the Pharisees saw sheep being taken care of, but not one of them was a shepherd and then they were groomed from the time they were conceived. This is the family and this is what you're going to do. They had seen it done, but they had never had the personal job themselves. And he says, therefore Jesus said again, verily I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. And all who have come before me are thieves and robbers. Anyone who's come before me. He just told these Pharisees that they're thieves and robbers. That ought to make them mad, huh? But the sheep have not listened to them. That's good for you, Greg. That's good for me. We didn't listen to them. I am the gate, and whosoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to its fullest extent. So in this passage, Jesus is saying, I am the gate. Going to the picture of the shepherd who's holding those sheep in. He has become the gate. He is the one who is keeping the bad out and the good in. Now, if that doesn't say love for people, I don't know what does. I think that's why he tells us ahead of this in verse 12 to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. The shepherd's not going to run off and leave the sheep. Is he? He says, I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. So in that, loving our neighbors means putting ourselves aside. Means hugging that person who's a cactus. Every time you get around them, they're going to hurt you somehow. But every time you hug them, you end up with more spines in you and they have less. And you can pull them out. They don't even know they have them. In 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 6 through 10, for in the scripture it says, see, I lay a stone in Zion, a chosen, precious cornerstone, and the one who trusts in him will never be put to shame. That's you guys today if you trust in him. There we go. Now, to you who believe, this is a stone. This stone is precious. But those who do not believe, the stone the builders rejected has become a cornerstone, and a stone that causes people to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the message. What's the message? What's the message? I love that person who's unlovely. That's the message. Which it also, that we are, which is also what we are destined for. So we're destined for that. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into the wonderful light. You see what he's framing there when John's saying this? We're God's chosen and precious possession. So our job is to be that royal priesthood, that holy nation, and praise the one who called us out of darkness. Not only just us, but we're to call others out of darkness by the way we live, by the way we love, By the way, we do things that normal people can't do without Jesus. We were just talking this morning. How can you live without the Lord? How can you do it? I don't see how you can do it in this world the way it is today. It's so hard. You turn the TV on, okay, don't matter. You can be a Democrat or a Republican. But you can turn the TV on, you can turn it to a channel that will turn your temperature up, get your heart moving, get you stomping, running around your house saying things that you should not let anybody hear. I mean, you just did that to yourself, but I mean, we get excited about stuff that doesn't make any difference to God. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. So mercy, can we say that mercy is love? So can we frame this as doing unto others as you would have them do unto you, is giving mercy to people? Because He's been merciful to us, because He loved us first. So love is not, it is what it is. Because it is what it is, when you say that, it's like going, well, I think, and I'm sorry, I just think of a bunch of stoners sitting around and go, wow, it is what it is. You can't cry over spilt milk. Not doing absolutely anything about it, but I'll give you a couple of words that don't mean anything. But love is action. It's a call to action. This is a call to action for us. This is something we need to do. Love is not a feeling. It's a decision that you make every day. It's a decision that you make every day to love someone, no matter what they do to you, no matter what they say to you, no matter how you feel. You hear a lot in relationships, well, I just don't feel love towards them anymore. What would you do if God decided to just send you a letter that said, hey, here's some extra pages, and I don't feel love towards you anymore? That's not what it is. It's not a feeling. It's an action. He decided that He was going to love us before we even knew that we were wrong or not with Him. Once we did not receive mercy, but now we have received mercy. 1 John chapter 4, 16 through 19. Is there anyone that would like to read that verse? This is pretty good, and we're going to end with this. 1 John chapter 4, 16 through 19.
I got a drum roll.
We got a reader. Okay.
All right. And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world we are like Jesus. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment, and the one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because He first loved us.
Amen. We love because He first loved us. There is no fear in love. How many of you today have fear that is just overwhelming? Fear of taking a new job, taking a new step, doing a new thing. Fear that you're going to react in a way that is not what you're trying to do now in your life. I'm trying to do this thing. I'm trying to read this guy's words. I'm trying to do this Jesus thing. I'm trying to be good. But your fear is that you're going to ruin it. He has mercy for you. And He has love for you. We need to share that with one another. It is what it is means I give up. I give in. I don't believe He can take care of me. I don't believe He even really exists. But what it is not a call to action. And God's love is a call to action. We are given little precious time here that we need to spend guarding the opening of our hearts and our eyes and our ears. Being careful of what gets in and what gets on us. There's a lot of theologians out there that read, and people that read all kinds of books and translations of books and other things. And they talk about how wonderful this person wrote it. Now I understand it better. And how this person wrote it. And you know, you got to be careful what you put in yourself. Reading is one thing. But reading this repeatedly, every time you read it, it's new. Every time you read it, it's deeper. Every time you read it, there's something different about it. There's something you can recall from it. And there's a lot to say about theology and things that we need to make sure we stay on a path. But Jesus says it all right here in the red words to keep us on a path. We're never going to learn anything more than what's already been said by Him. And I thought that we might have someone that wanted to say something after the fact. So I'm going to let you go ahead and do that, and then we'll close out here.
Just want to share a poem I believe that my grandmother wrote. It says, "Moms, this is what the altar is for. Just as I am without plea, but the blood was shed for me, and that they visit me. Come to thee, O Lord of God. I come to serve is nearing the end. The choir is singing just as I am. Now as the old songs are playing, people at the altar are kneeling down and praying. Some are feeling mercy, forgiveness for their sins. Some are fighting battles and their struggles to win. The time has come to give it to the Lord. That is what the altar is for. This is what the altar is for. Don't have to carry those burdens anymore. There's a light in the darkness. There is a love that's true. Jesus is waiting. He is waiting for you. Go quickly now before they close the door. That's what the altar is for. Their father is praying for their sons. A mother is kneeling beside them, thanking God that they have come. The old man is standing there in tears, giving up a part of him that he is held back for years. Hearts will be broken, lives will be changed. Those who call upon him will never be the same. The time has come to give them to the Lord. That is what the altar is for. You can give your burdens to the Lord. That is what the altar is for. Written by Nancy Pennington.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the statement that Jesus makes about doing to others what you would have them do to you widely needs to be acclaimed. It was not meant to just be a praised thing or something that we wrote songs about or anything like that. It was something to be practiced. And He wants us to put that into practice. So in the picture of two gates, a wide road and a narrow road, He places Himself as the gate in John. There is only one way to enter into the kingdom of heaven, and that is through Him. He is the gate. The other gate is unguarded. It's unprotected. And that leads to destruction. So if we're going to practice loving our neighbors and doing unto others and being a disciple, being a good citizen, which gate do you think we need to be posted at? We need to be posted at the wide gate. We need to be pronouncing the love of Christ at the wide gate. Not all, but some may turn around. And we all need to be pointing at that narrow gate, which is Christ. So let me just ask today, don't let life let you give up or make you give up. Love Him, love yourself, and love others. His love was there for us in the beginning. He loved us first. He forgave us first. It's hard, but we need to do that for others. Because in that forgiveness comes repentance. It did in my life. And we want the same thing, being kingdom citizens. We want none to enter through the wide gate. We want to fill heaven with His people. And that's the way we should live our lives. That's what I think He means by the golden rule. It's a call to action. His love is greater than we'll ever understand or see until we're standing right before Him and we see all the stuff that we did. And it's not there anymore. Amen? So let me encourage you, if you don't know the Lord today, today's a good day to come to know Him. If you have anything that's on your heart, today is a good day to confess it to Him. You don't have to tell me or anybody else, but you have to talk to Him. You need to talk to Him.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you were blessed. If you have any questions, please give us a call, 682-327-7082. We are at 7955 Reed Road in Azle, Texas. Y'all have a good day now, you hear?